send the Holy Spirit to be the one talking on Maggie's tongue, and let us all listen and apply this in our lives. So intercession of Saint Mary and our saints, here is our
Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth. Okay, you can all hear me, good. Sit up front, girlfriend, be prepared. Okay, everyone, I think you all know me. I'm Maggie. I go to your church. If you don't know me, come say hi. We'll chit-chat.
We know you, but we don't believe in your credentials.
Listen, I am a psychologist. If you don't know, I have no idea why they asked me to talk about parenting, because that's the area of my life that I am the weakest at. But guess what? We're all going to learn together. The nice thing about being a psychologist is you have a lot of information in your head. It's just how do you put it into action. It's really interesting. Poor Peter. But listen up. So we're going to talk about, there are 4 main styles of parenting. This is something that has been established since the 1960s. So I know the millennials came along and everyone wanted to change and add parenting styles, and I'll address some of the newer ones. But these 4 are tried and true. They've been researched. There's been publishings about them. So if you're curious, like people are always like, how do we parent? I'm like, guess what? The researchers and the experts in the field have already told us how to do it. So let's just figure it out. We'll talk about them. There's some benefits of all 4 of them, and there's some drawbacks to all 4 of them. So let's get started. So here are the 4. Don't worry, I'm going to go through every one of them. You can't see. Listen, I want to tell you something, because this PowerPoint has too many words on it. I'm really good at PowerPoint, but this one is not a good reflection. Too many words, but it's going to be okay. The first type of parenting is authoritarian parenting. I'm sure once we go through it, many of you will be sitting there thinking, my dad or my mom is an authoritarian parent. Many of us in our community, we have this. You believe your kids should be seen but not heard, right? When it comes to rules, it's my way or the highway. This is a very, very sort of demanding type of parenting style. You don't take your children's feelings into consideration. The idea of this authoritarian parenting is it's very rule-driven. It's very strict. There isn't a lot of movement in it, okay? So you've uttered the words. If you've ever uttered the words, because I said so, you might be an authoritarian parent, right? Sometimes we have to use some authoritarian style within our own styles. So when I'm talking about the styles, I am not saying do all of them or do none of them. I'm saying pick and choose, but pay attention to the things about the styles that are not very effective, okay? So when you're focusing on strict rules, obedience, discipline, these parents have high expectations and they don't hesitate to punish when their children don't follow the guidelines. The authoritarian parent takes over decision-making power, rarely giving the child any input, okay? Authoritarian parents are not very nurturing. These are not the warm and fuzzy parents. These are the ones that are pretty strict and by the rules, okay? So here are some of the outcomes of the authoritarian type of parenting. So when raised by an authoritarian parent, children are often well-behaved at home, but then they rebel at school, right? Or you might see them, they're the ones that will go to college and all of a sudden it's like freedom, and then they go crazy, right? So they may struggle with some social skills, some indecisiveness. They may have low self-esteem. You know, they may have all the negative things, okay? Don't worry. Every single style they may have. Don't worry. And then some research says that with the authoritarian parents, we see people having more issues with substance abuse. Partly it's because they've been told and they've been restricted their whole lives, so they need an outlet. And so they tend to go towards the things that are like loose and free. Okay, so then the polar opposite of an authoritarian parent is a permissive, sort of child-centered parenting, okay? This is an extreme, right? So you set the rules, but you rarely enforce them. Pay attention, because I know some of you in this room are permissive. So you might say, like, oh, bedtime is at 7. And then your kid comes and he's like, oh, I'm not tired. Okay, maybe we'll push it to 7:30. So pay attention, just, you don't give out consequences very often. You might be the type of parent that's like, oh, like kids will be kids. This is their favorite thing to say. Like, you think a child will learn if you interfere with them, right? Or will learn best with little interference from you, okay? So you let your child do something even when you know it's not that healthy. So if this is the child that's like, Mommy, I want a cookie, and you're like, okay, Baba, I'll give you one cookie. I want another cookie. Okay, Habibi, yeah, take another cookie. Oh, okay. At some point, these are the kids that end up being a little loose, right? So permissive parents are lenient, right? And they tend to be very forgiving, and then they say the phrase, which I have to say, please don't ever say this phrase to me because it grates on me, kids will be kids. No, kids won't be kids. Like, you're a parent, you're an adult, right? So often they act out, right? The problem with permissive parenting, too, is you're impacting all the kids around your kids. Because you're the kid, you've told the kids, your kids, that they have basically a level of entitlement that other kids don't have. Like, if your kid is tied up with a person who has more of a strict household, and that kid is like, oh no, I can watch video games until 8 o'clock. And you're like, what do you mean? Like, my kid stops at 6 or whatever. Then that creates more problems, right? Where your kid now comes home and says, you're a bad mom and dad because you tell me I end at 7, but Johnny can stay up till 8 doing whatever he wants, okay? So, these are the parents that are, in my mind, like, they give in too easily. You see a kid crying or whatever, they get disciplined and then they cry, and then that parent sort of takes it back. Be aware. I know you're loving and you're doing this out of love. By the way, every single parenting style is out of love. There's no parent that is like trying to abuse my child. No. We're all trying to figure it out. You guys are the hardest, worst job in the world. We're all trying to figure it out. But permissive parents give in a little bit too much. The outcomes of permissive parenting is the children are accustomed to getting their way. So imagine what it's like as an adult, okay? So they exhibit more behavioral problems. They have problems with rules and authority. They lack responsibility. They have anxiety and depression, academic struggles. Kids who parent permissively often act entitled, egocentric, selfish, and they often have issues in the workplace. So that's just something to keep an eye on. They tend to have bad sleep habits, bad eating skills, habits, things like that. Yes?
Why they have issue with anxiety and depression if they can do everything they want?
Yeah, because here's the thing about kids. Kids need structure. Kids need rules. We're going to hear about the golden standard of parenting, which is authoritative. We'll get there. But the idea of not allowing for those types of boundaries, kids feel lost. And then they get very anxious and they get depressed later on. Now, these are things that happen way down the line. So your 8-year-old is probably not going to be, crying and not getting out of bed in the morning, but they might at 18. So that's why we're saying, like, pay attention. These are things we want to tweak so that we can fix it, that they don't have these extended problems later in life. Okay, so this is a type of style I can guarantee you no one in this room is. Very neglectful, dismissive parenting, right? You don't ask your children about school or homework. These are the parents that, like, again, there's no intention behind them neglecting their children. Maybe they work full time, right? Maybe they are literally just trying to, like, make ends meet. Nobody is trying to be a neglectful parent, right? But you may rarely know where your child is and who they're with. You don't spend much time with your child. Again, these are usually parents that really are either working a lot or they might be depressed. They might be dealing with some mental health issues. I work with a lot of people who they themselves are suffering from depression. They don't have any energy. There's no, like, not 1 ounce of them can go look at their kids. So you don't have many rules and expectations because you've neglected your kids. So essentially they ignore their children. They receive little guidance. The kids receive little guidance, nurturing, and parental attention. So they're uninvolved parents. They kind of tell their kids, like, they're neglected and they basically raise yourself. So I want to tell you, sometimes this is a good thing. Like, sometimes the kids from a neglectful family, they are overwhelmed by needing that in the world. So then they end up being, like, super successful. We've all heard stories out there. There are, like, Netflix shows about these people who are neglected as children and they grow up to be the most successful whatever people because they want to go the complete opposite of what they were given as children. So it's not all bad, but there's bad because I'll tell you the outcomes. So without guidance or structure, they tend to act out. So we tend to see some substance abuse, like rebelliousness, delinquency. Obviously, you get it. their academic performance is terrible. Authoritative parenting. This is the one, if you haven't listened to anything I've said all morning, perk up, because this is the gold standard. Again, people ask me all the time, what's the best way to parent? I have no idea, but I know that the researchers have told us this is the style. So here's what it is. You put a lot of effort into creating and maintaining positive relationship with your children. You explain reasons behind rules. I totally forgot I wanted to start with an example. So an example, yeah?
What was the first one? Authoritative.
Which authoritarian. So authoritarian, permissive, neglectful, authoritative. So let's take an example of bedtime, okay? So bedtime, let's start with authoritarian. Bedtime, an authoritarian parent would say, Ines, you're going to sleep at 8 o'clock, that's it, that's the rule. Why, mommy? Doesn't matter. I said that's the rule, I'm the mom, you go to sleep. That's the time you go to bed. Authoritarian, okay? Permissive parents, Habibi, bedtime is at 8 o'clock. Oh, I'm not tired, I don't want to go to bed. Okay, Baba, it's okay. What time do you want to go to bed? Okay, I just need half an hour more to do this. Okay, in half an hour we'll do more. Okay, now are you ready to go to bed? Okay, struggle, bedtime, okay? And then the neglectful parent doesn't even give a bedtime. Like, okay, I'm going to bed, I'll catch you on the flippity flip. I'll see you tomorrow morning when I take you to school, okay? The authoritative parent says, Ines, your bedtime is at 8 o'clock. But mommy, I don't want to go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm too tired. I'm going to explain to you why. The reason why mommy and daddy set up 8 o'clock bedtime is because we need you to get sleep. Sleep is good for your body, Baba. Then the next day you get to go to school and you'll be wide awake and ready to go. This is authoritative parenting, okay? You explain the reasons behind your rules. You set limits and enforce rules. You set limits and enforce rules. You give consequences, but you consider your child's feelings, okay? Discipline. Sound familiar, right? You use positive discipline strategies such as praise and rewards. The idea is giving structure and boundaries around their behavior. Authoritative parents provide their children with rules and boundaries, but they also give them the freedom to make choices. So if your kid comes to you and says, or you say to them, here, honey, you can wear this blue shirt or this red shirt. You choose. I don't care. You pick, okay? It's giving them the idea to make decisions, okay? With authoritative parenting style, parents validate their children's feelings. We're going to get to that because sometimes people over-validate. So validate their children's feelings by also making it clear that adults are ultimately in charge. So it's not authoritarian that says, no, it's because mommy and daddy said so. Authoritative is, mommy and daddy said so, and this is why. These are the reasons why. The idea is to involve them and to help them understand why you're doing what you're doing, okay? Praise and rewards is always important. You got to praise and you got to give positive feedback, right? So authoritative parents, they view mistakes as learning experiences. Every mistake they make, help them adjust and learn from it. You don't want to harp on the mistake. You don't want to say like, I don't know, give me a mistake. I don't know, they spill something on the floor. You're not like, God, you're such a loser. Like, why would you spill on the floor? You're an awful kid. No, right? But you say like, oh, we spilled. You go get a napkin and you clean it up. I will help you if you need help. But we have to clean up behind ourselves, right? Authoritative parents say, you can go play in the playroom and make a massive mess, but you're going to clean it up at the end of the night. Right? That's the difference. Authoritarian parents probably wouldn't let them make such a big mess, right? We have boundaries, we have strict rules. Permissive parent will let them leave the mess. If your house right now, you're thinking, oh my God, Maggie, have you seen my house? Because it's a disaster. You might be a little too permissive. Like you might need them to help you clean up a bit, right? If you are a neglectful parent, I don't think you even know what toys your kids have. If you're an authoritative parent, you will tell them you play and then you clean up after yourself, right? This is the boundaries in our home. Children raised, here are the outcomes. Children raised with authoritative parents tend to be happier, confident, successful. It's linked to academic achievement and high self-esteem. Kids with authoritative parents tend to have a close nurturing relationship with parents. They tend to be more responsible, respectful. They have the ability to manage their aggression because they have an understanding of why they're given rules, ability to clearly express their emotions. We want them to be able to express. So you get it. These children perform well academically and socially, right? Okay. There are a million subcategories. Let me show you. We're not going to go through any of them except one, which is called gentle parenting. We're going to go through it. I just want to, because like there's so many, it's nonsense, I'll be honest. Most of these that they call like a different style fits into one of the four. So I'm like, why did you create? But you've heard of them. Free range parenting, helicopter parenting, snowplow. I do want to point out, the snowplow parents, these are the parents that are trying to get all of the issues and struggles your kids face away from them. So do you remember the big USC debacle? I'm saying because I'm an alum. But you remember how the parents paid the way for their kids to get into college? Those were snowplowers, okay? You're trying to take, many years ago, there were very rich parents who paid the way for their kids to get into Ivy League schools and USC, and then they got caught, okay?
That's not allowed, by the way.
Yeah, you can't do it. We tried. We figured it out. No. We all want to, but we can't. Yeah. So the snowplowers are the ones that, like, I'll tell you an example. Like, my daughter comes home and tells me, like, there's a little girl at school that's bothering her, and she's crying. And if you've met Leah, like, when she cries, your soul breaks a little bit. Like, you feel like, I'm going to die a little. So she's crying, and then I'm like, that's okay. Tomorrow I'm going to go talk to Taylor when I get to school. Like, I'm going to talk to her. Thank God she has the best father, because Peter's like, well, why don't you just talk to Taylor about it? Like, why don't you deal with it? And he's dead right. I was trying to snowplow, like, I'll take care of it. I'll go talk to that little girl and make sure she won't ever make you cry. But Peter's like, why don't you just deal with it on your own? Like, you're 6 years old. You can handle it. And sure enough, like, she dealt with it. She's fine. But see, there's moments where we might want to do something, like helicopter, be around our kids all the time, want to know everything they're doing at all times, want to be part of every decision making. Sometimes we want to do this. What happens, you guys? It leads to a lot. Your overprotective nature leads to kids who are less independent. They have dependency issues. They don't know how to make decisions. It's so awesome when I get a patient who's like 26 years old and she's coming and she's like, I can't make a decision to save my life. It takes me like 30 minutes at Trader Joe's just to pick a cereal. I'm like, my God. In my mind, I'm like, I already know what kind of parents you had. But let's talk about what kind of parents you had. Sure enough, helicopter parents, like, deciding every decision for them, hovering around them, like, oh, this is the one you want, for sure. All good intention. All good intention. Nobody has bad intention, but it produces some negative side effects that we all need to know and figure out so we can learn how to pull back a bit, right? The one we are going to talk a tiny bit about is gentle parenting. The reason why is because it gets so much hype on social media, and there's so many young people that are trying to be gentle parents. So I'm just going to go over it a little bit. As you can see, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'll tell you why I'm not. So there's good things. Gentle parenting emphasizes empathy, understanding, and respect. It is beautiful. Who doesn't want empathy, understanding, and respect for your child? Good intention. Children are invited to explore their emotions, and parents consistently model accepting their child's experience, which teaches children how to manage their feelings, okay? This is the idea behind gentle parenting. But the problem is consistency is key. And how many of us in here can say that we are consistent 24/7? I certainly cannot. I will not raise my hand for that, right? Consistency is key. So you have to comment on the action, not the person. I'll give you an example of a gentle parenting scenario, okay? Your kid comes home and has just done something wrong. I punched a kid, okay? And I got in trouble for it. So you as a gentle parent, you have to sit your child down, literally, okay? You sit your child down and you say, I see that you punched little Johnny today. I know that you were trying to tell me something by doing that. It seems that you were angry. Could you have been angry? Tell me about what was the emotion you were feeling. The whole time the kid's like, what? I punched the kid. Like, it's okay. But the idea is really, and I might be exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating too much. That is the idea, is you're supposed to talk through. It's so hard, you guys. If you are a gentle parenter, God bless you, because it is so hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it is not easy to be consistent, right? But the ideas behind it are there. The ideas are good. We want to have empathy. We want to have understanding. You certainly don't want to just shut your kid down for doing something like punching little Johnny. You certainly want to understand, like, hey, man, what happened? Why did you put your hands on Johnny? Well, because he said this thing. Okay, let's talk about how do you manage that? Like, how do you work through it? The gentle parents would be like, I'm really sorry that you felt that way. It's hard to feel those feelings. I get it. It's really hard. But they focus too much on the emotion instead of, helping them navigate the behavior, okay? That's my issue with gentle parenting. You focus too much on the emotion, and you create overindulgent adults. And I'm telling you from my experience, because I have patients who've had gentle parents, and they come in and every emotion they feel is so important to them. It's the most important emotion they've ever felt in their whole lives. And everything they feel is so intense. It's very intense. We have to pull back a bit, you guys. So the outcomes of gentle parenting. They're more likely to develop emotional intelligence. That's good. Manage stress and frustration. Perform well academically, right? Good things. But then it can also lead to a sense of entitlement. It can create difficulties managing difficult situations in life. How about relationships? How about marriage, right? It can make it difficult to navigate the demands of an organization. God, if you are a manager in here and you have people who work for you that had gentle parents, I bet you'll come talk to me after, right? Because you'll be like, you're so right. It's difficult. It's difficult. They want to talk through everything, have their emotions heard and have their voices heard. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is when everything is so extreme and exaggerated, and that's my issue with gentle parenting. It went to an extreme where all we're doing is overindulging in feelings and validating emotions and whatever. And that's difficult for people. They have to be able to be resilient. Last week, we were just talking about resilience. In order to gain resilience, you have to learn how to manage and get past, not just stay stuck in the feeling. It creates a fantasy world, because guess what? No one else in the world is going to sit with you and go, you know what, it looks like you're really feeling something, you're really feeling angry, I see the emotion. Nobody's going to do that unless you pay me to come to my office, and then I'll do that all day long. But no one else in the world is going to do that. You guys, parenting is the hardest job on the planet. On the planet. He created it for us. I know God created it, but it is the hardest job. I used to think marriage was the hardest, right? Because I used to give talks about marriage until I had kids. It's the hardest job on the planet. I can't understand it. So don't beat yourself up. We all make mistakes. Every single person in this room, and I know three of the best parents I've ever seen in my life are sitting in this room, and everybody makes mistakes, okay? You have time to fix mistakes. You have time. Here's the cool thing. I just made a huge mistake yesterday with my kid. Huge, massive. But I sat him down and I said I was sorry, and I tried to have a conversation with him, and I thought, I'm going to make up for the mistake that I made. I know many of us in here, we have parents who've made a million mistakes, more than we can count. But I can almost guarantee none of our parents sat us down and said, Maggie Attia, I'm so sorry for what I did. If you have those parents, God bless you and God bless them. Because in Egypt, I don't think they were taught how to make up for the mistake you made. No, we just move right past it, right? So we have time and we have knowledge. We can fix our mistakes, okay? We can make up for them. So don't be afraid. So prioritize your relationship. First, read what I say. Prioritize your relationship both with your spouse and with your child. The thing is, parenting is co-parenting. And we're going to talk about your co-parenting with God, but you are two people who are parenting. It's not just one. Now, here's the thing. Some of you are sitting here thinking, but my wife or my husband is this style and I am this style. And you might be either opposites or very different. This is a problem. It's a massive problem. It creates a lot of confusion for kids. Kids start to divide the household because they figured it out. You think that they're not smart? They're smarter than us at the age of 5. They're smarter than us that we are where we're at, okay? They're incredibly smart. They have figured you guys out. So be aware. You guys have to be on the same page. Sometimes you won't agree and you still have to be on the same page. Just this morning, Isaiah says asked us a question. And then I said, what did Daddy say? And he said, well, he said no, but I wanted to ask you to see what your answer would be. And I said, my answer is going to be no, Bubba. Whatever Daddy said, that is the answer. You don't need to ask. We're always going to agree. Always. So don't ever try to divide us. I'll beat you up. So, that's the idea is make sure you and your spouse are talking about parenting on a regular basis. Because every day something new is going to come and you're going to be shocked. Like, well, why did you tell him that? What? Well, because you didn't talk about it ahead of time. Well, what would we want to do in this situation? Whatever. Talk about it. It doesn't mean you're going to change your spouse or he or she's going to change you. I don't mean for you guys to change, but you have to be on the same page. You can't do one thing one way and have the other person do the thing complete opposite way. You just can't. It's very confusing for your children. Don't do that. Okay? Practice self-care. Take care of yourselves. We are miserable doing this job without self-care. You have to. Take care of yourselves, you guys. Talk to your kids and be curious about their lives. Talk to your kids. Have a chit-chat. Ask them, how was your day? Tell me about your friends. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid like, oh, I'm going to annoy my kid. Even if you have teenagers, right? It's okay. Sit them down. It's all right. Take them out for ice cream. Take them out somewhere and have a nice conversation with them. You know, one thing that we now, this generation can do, which I know that our parents never did, is ask your kids, what can I do better? What have I done as a mom that you have loved, and what have you not liked? What can I do better? I want to be better. Show them. Teach them how amazing it can be to be an adult that wants to grow and wants to be better at something. Talk to them. Be curious. Let them launch. So many people want to keep their kids at home for the rest of their lives and let these kids launch, right? The more anxiety you have about their future, the more they will have. Get them excited about leaving you. It's okay. We're raising our kids to be adults in the world, not to be under your roof for the rest of their lives. Don't do this to them. Be excited. Teach them about college. Teach them about, life after college, work. Teach them about moving out. Move out, right? Make money and move out. Practice co-parenting with God. Tina said it last week. It's such a good point. We forget all the time. We are not in this alone, not just me and my husband. We are not in it alone. We have God on our side. So we need to be praying about it. We need to bring it to God all the time. Anytime we're struggling with something, pray about it. Give it some time. Tina said a great thing last week. Your kids come and ask you something, and you immediately have, I want to talk about the difference between a reaction and a response. We as parents, we react too much. We need to not be reactionary. We need to respond. The way to respond is take a minute. Take some time. Take a deep breath. Gather your thoughts. If I am asking you, I want to get a tattoo, Dad, your immediate reaction is, have you lost your God-loving mind, right? No, it's a terrible reaction, but they're expecting it, right? Dad, I'm going to get a tattoo on my forehead. It's a good idea. But how about we pray about it? How about we sit? How about we take 6 months to think about it or whatever? Come back to me. We'll think about it. Have a response, not a reaction. So the idea of co-parenting with God, it actually requires us to have responses because you have to sit with God first before you respond to your child. So God encourages discipline. I have some verses for you. Should I read them? And in Ephesians, and you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. Discipline, he's saying. Give them discipline. And in Hebrews, now no chastening seems to be joyful by the present, but painful. Nevertheless, after it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. This is the best verse for parents. It's painful. It is painful. And sometimes you feel like I'm giving discipline, and I feel like I've taken away the peace in this home. It's painful. But then afterwards, the idea is hopefully it yields the fruit that you're looking for. My son, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor detest his correction. God corrects us. God provides discipline to us. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects. This is a good one. Have that in your mind all the time. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects, just as a father the son in whom he delights. We have to correct our kids. We are living in a world that is terrifying for parents. It's terrifying. Honestly. And so if we are not there to correct them and we are not there to give them guidance and provide this atmosphere for them, type of discipline and love, then we have failed them miserably because the world will raise them for you. If you don't do it, God bless you, the world will do it and you will not be happy with the outcome. I wanted to leave room for questions because I'm sure we have a million questions. So, yeah. Anyone? Yes. Oh, sure.
My question is, with the 4 different styles,
Yes.
authoritative is one that can just transition from like infancy up, but is it appropriate that as you set those clear boundaries, obviously in the early stages of childhood, adolescence, that you employ more of that gentle parenting style? Like teens are very emotional, and like their biggest thing is like wanting to be heard.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's mine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. No,
So,
you make such a good point.
is it appropriate that once you've set those clear boundaries and you have that sort of strong relationship, that part of the being able to connect with them is like, no, I want to hear your emotions. Is it still worrisome at like that teenage if you have a good foundation to do more of that gentle parenting style?
Yeah, it's a
I know
really good
I'm
point.
a long ways away, but they're a lot of work.
You know what? It's not a long ways away because you are exactly right. You are establishing the relationship and connection with your kids now so that when they're teenagers, they are going to come and sit to you and talk to you and chat with you. And they are. The idea is laying that foundation of a relationship. But yeah, I think that we all adapt. Like I was just talking to a mom downstairs. She's saying, how about I have 3 kids and all 3 of them require different parenting styles? I'm like, yeah, that's the misery of parenting. There is no cookie cutter. This one will work for everyone. Even though authoritative is the golden standard, some kids may need a little more authoritarian, right? Some kids may need a little more permissive. Like some kids may need you to adapt some of the other styles for them because their personalities are different. We have 2 kids and I think each of them requires different. But there is that fundamental relationship you want to develop. The idea of later on then doing a little more gentle parenting, I think when your kids start to get older and you can have more real conversations with them, that's when you're going to engage with the conversation. Like if your 15-year-old comes and he hit Johnny, we're going to have a different conversation than my 5-year-old, I don't have 5-year-old, but you know, a 5-year-old hitting Johnny, different conversation. My 15-year-old, I'm definitely going to sit down and be like, hey bro, what happened? Like what were you thinking? Do you think that's the way to handle when you're angry? You're a grown 15-year-old boy, like come on. So you have conversations about what was going on for you. Were you pissed off? Well, he liked another girl, then we have a conversation about it. But they will never have those conversations with you if you haven't already established a relationship where they see you, number one, as an authority figure. Pay attention. We do not want our kids to see us as friends. I know some younger people in the room, they think that you want to be friends. Yeah, Laura, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But a lot of this is true though, a lot of younger parents think they want to be friends. They want to make a friendship relationship with their kids. Your kids do not need you to be their friend. They don't. Do they need you to love them? Yes. Do they need you to support them? Yes. Do they need you to be their parent? Yes. They only have one of you. They only have one mom and one dad. They have 4,000 million friends. Enough. They don't need friendship. Now, your relationship with them will change. My 7-year-old, I have a different relationship than I will, God willing, when he's 17, right? Many of you have teenage kids. You have a good relationship with them. I don't mean you're not their friend. You are. Probably their best friend. I mean, your relationship has developed to that because of their age, right? But as a child, you don't want to be friends. They're not your best friend. I used to have a friend who would say her children at that time were like 5, 6, 7. And she's like, oh, my kids are my best friends. And I was like, how sad for you. That is so sad. Like your best friend is 6? So
what you're trying to say, don't lose your authority to them.
Don't lose your authority. You are their mom. You are their parent. Learn how to love supportively. Learn how to have a conversation, how to work with them. But do not ever feel like, no, like I'm your friend, like we're going to be friends. Like, no, you're not going to be friends. You shouldn't be. They need you. They need mom and dad. They have enough. But yeah, your relationship develops and changes over time as long as you're creating that fundamental relationship, which we need to work on, right? It takes
so
work. Yeah.
If you already have one of those styles, not like the best parenting styles, and you want to switch to, the golden parenting style.
Yeah. Yes.
Is it, I guess, how we can make that switch?
Yeah.
And if your kids is already old?
That's okay. Remember, it's never too late. It's never too late to make changes in the way that you parent, especially when they're older. You can have conversations with them. Hey, bud, I want to tell you something. Mommy may have not done this the best way. I may have always told you, like, you have to do things, and maybe I was a little too strict. It's okay, talk to them about it. Maybe I was a little too strict. I want to be better. I want to work on me being better for you because I want this to be better. So you're trying to engage them and help them understand, like, I'm an adult that recognized I made mistakes and I am trying to make up for it. If you want to switch to authoritative, read about authoritative parenting and then adopt those things. Learn, like, you may have erred on one side or the other. Like, I may have been too strict or I may have been too permissive. But you can say, you know what, I want to work on finding more of a balance. And you tell your kid this, you know, Abby, whatever, I'd like to be better. I want us to, like, you know.
Yeah, but what if, you know, like one of the, I guess, maybe challenges for us with teenagers is to get them to open up to talk.
Yeah.
And this is where we say, we want to be friends
Yeah.
and funny and...
Yeah, no matter how friendly you are, listen, your teenager is, even if you want to be friends with them, they are never, get it through your heads, they are never going to talk to you the way that they talk to their friends. Right. They are never going to tell you every thought that's ever crossed their mind. They are never going to tell you every word that's coming. Get it out of your head, huh?
Speak life, I'm saying.
Speak life, speak
Don't say
truth.
never. Maybe they will, Yani, but
They will never, Tina. Get it in your thick skull. They will never. You guys, this is life. How many of you told your parents every single thing you thought of, every girl you liked, every boy? Come on. Let's be realistic. Now, we don't want our kids to lie to us. We don't want them to hide things. We don't want them to do all this bad stuff, right? That's why we have to create a relationship with them. But for us to wish for them to talk to us the way they talk to their friends, what? Then that's a you problem, not them.
I also think it's important to know that communication is so important, and we're born to want to communicate. But our kids have a lot more things to communicate with than we did growing up. They have their phone to communicate with, they have social media to communicate with. They have all these different outlets. So I often hear, my kid is in the room 24/7. Well, what is communicating with them? And can we remove that out? Once you start removing these things out, then all of a sudden there's room for communication.
Yeah.
So I also think that as a parent, we need to pray about what are our kids communicating with that's taken the space of like that friendship.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Have some limits, right? Have some boundaries in your home. When you're noticing that they're overly involved in social media or whatever, that's when you engage with them and say, like, hey, buddy, like, we got to have some, like, time away from your phone. Like, tonight is going to be no technology night or whatever. Or we're going to have no tech Saturdays or whatever. People set up these things for the good of their child. Like, this is to benefit them, to help them. So, yeah, certainly, you don't want all communication to be coming not from you. But there has to be a balance, and there has to be an acceptance that there are things you are not going to know about your kids. I know we hate to hear it, but we're just not. We can't. Yeah.
You mentioned the word make it up.
Make what?
Make it up for them.
Uh-huh.
Can you put some practical points how we can make it up?
Like
Not
make up for our
totally
mistakes?
For a mistake.
Yeah. It depends on how old they are, but we can make up for our mistakes. 17, 18. I think this is when you have those conversations of, hey, buddy, like, take them out to lunch. Have a sit-down conversation where, look, Mommy and Daddy, we tried our best. We really did. We did everything we could. We did some things wrong. Do you know how powerful it is for your teenage kids to hear from you, I did something wrong? Do you know what you're setting that kid up for? A future of amazing relationships where they take ownership of something that they've done wrong. If you as parents can say, I did this wrong. I'm in my late 40s. I have never heard my parents say to me once that they did anything wrong. Never, not one time. And they did a lot. So can you imagine? So do that to your kids. What a powerful moment to have dad, I see it's bringing up, to have dad say, I did something wrong. I did something wrong and I want to say that I'm sorry. And I want to do something better. I want to better you for it.
I think also you brought up a very important thing that we think that because we turned out just fine,
Aha.
because our parents raised us this way, when we are far from fine,
Yeah.
right? We think we were fine, we turned
Yeah.
out fine.
Yeah.
But I think it's almost like how can we practically almost catch ourselves before we jump into
Yeah.
a reaction, or like you said, or
Yeah.
the way which I strongly believe this is the right way because my parents raised me this way and
Yeah.
it turned out just fine.
Yeah. Well, we turned out functional. We are functional, but I don't think we're fine. And I think we recognize that, right? And when we repeat patterns in our household, we need to stop and think, I did this because my parents did it. And it doesn't mean that it was right. Now, it doesn't mean it was wrong. It doesn't mean it was wrong. These younger kids are always coming and they're wanting to blame their parents. And I'm saying, you should be thanking God that you have parents that didn't like abuse you and didn't do, you know what I mean? So listen, like our parents didn't do us all wrong. We're good, functional people. But the things that they did wrong, we want to correct for. We don't want to repeat bad behavior, right? We don't want to repeat the same exact things our parents did. We repeat it. We don't want to do that. That's why a corrective moment, people always, you come to therapy to have a corrective experience, right? Parents can do it. Have a corrective moment for your kids to say, I did something wrong. I want to fix it. And I want to do something better. I want us to have a deeper relationship so things get better for you in life. It will be better for you and me.
I'm a young parent, so I'm not here to give advice, but if my parents did that for me, I would have really appreciated that if they took me out and I think that would have went a long way. So if you have older kids, please do that for them. Please say sorry. I think that would help them so much in their marriage as parents in the future in the long run.
Yeah.
I was going to add too, probably because I'm younger, as you referenced a bit.
Yeah. What are you trying to say?
Also, it's not my area of expertise, but I would say the challenges of the youth and children today is not like anything we all experience.
Yeah.
The things that they see, the things that they're exposed to, all of that it's really scary.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, I'm terrified.
Yeah.
To have my kids outside.
Yeah.
So that's my own anxiety of the things that they're going to see and be exposed to. So I think any time you can spend with your kid, especially 17, 18, and say I've done this, I do that, the world will validate them.
Yeah.
So if we don't take the time to offer that to them, they'll just get it from somewhere else. Oh, well, yeah, I love you exactly how you are. Oh, your parents don't, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you want tattoos? Yeah, why not? I have 4, right? But if it's okay, you want to get a tattoo, we're not at the place anymore, or at least our generation, where we can say oh no, you're not doing that. Oh, Buna will go tell you why. Abuna will explain it to you. But the people are going to say this and this about us if you have a tattoo. You can't do that. You can't go to church wearing that. But it's okay, why do you want that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's symbolic. Tita Marche, when she was sick, Daddy, it's so special to me. Oh, I get that. I love Tita too. How about we take that energy and we put it into something that's what can we do for Tita? Can we start a charity? Can we do this? Can you draw, since you love drawing, son? Can you draw me one? Maybe I'll get one too. Building that bond with them, even at 17 or 18, you still have time. It's not lost, but you have to meet them at their level, even if it makes me uncomfortable. And I think and again, not my area of expertise, but as a younger person, I see that is more moving than the no.
Yeah.
The no is they're gonna be okay, then I just won't tell you.
Yeah.
I can buy it on Amazon, I can go, or she'll buy it for me
Yeah.
on her phone. It's not hard. Everything is so easy and available that I want to be easy and available to my kids in a way that's going to save them.
Yeah.
Or at least remind them or bring them back to Christ.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll never go away from him. But that's...
Wait,
that's
Sally
just
has
my
something.
thing.
Yeah. Good. Really good point, by the way.
I'm not my thing. You're
No.
here, but...
Maybe there's not enough time for today, but it can be maybe brought up in the following weeks. But something that I think a lot of us in the women's meeting here, that is a struggle, is when one parent is doing a certain style, but then their friend is doing a very completely different style. They might be more authoritative, but then their friend, who they're very close to, might be more gentle.
Yeah.
So then when kids are together, it causes a lot of conflict, and parents
Yep.
are like, well, I don't know how to say something. I don't know how to deal with that because
Yeah.
that's their style, and I don't want to impose on their style.
Yeah.
So you may not have the answer now, maybe it's something to bring up, but that is a big struggle. Is how do you manage with other friends get close to you?
Please.
I know you said parents they have to agree, but can ever two different parenting styles complement each other or no?
I'll come back to that. Sally, just a quick answer to that is the idea, if you're an authoritative parent, you're discussing with your kids, you're going to encounter things in the world that are different than what mommy and daddy do or what we talk about or whatever. You're encouraging them to recognize the world is filled with diversity, and even our best friends may say something totally different. The idea is focus on what mommy and daddy, what God, what we want for you to understand. It doesn't matter what Johnny or Apple, whatever, says, okay? So the idea is to teach them to deal with difference. Deal with difference. But it is hard because they're going to come home and say, but he's allowed to do whatever and we're, that's the hardest thing is when you're stricter than your best friend's kids, that's the hardest thing. But you say, listen, honey, there's a reason why we want you to finish, this at bedtime or whatever it is. There's a reason. I'll tell you the reason why. And it doesn't matter what Johnny does because it only matters what mommy and daddy tell you. And we can talk about maybe later in the future we'll allow you to do this and this and this. Henny, to go back to the idea of do parenting styles complement, the problem is when the extreme ones are so extreme, they don't complement each other. They butt heads, right? So if you have a permissive parent with an authoritarian parent, the kids will be a divided home. They're going to go to the permissive parent more than they're going to go to the authoritarian, right? So we don't want massive divisions. Now, does that mean that two people are always going to discipline exactly the same way or say the exact same thing? No, it's okay. But as long as you are in agreement, you have to be in agreement. Even if mommy and daddy, we have a different perspective or different way of approaching, as long as we're in agreement, you're good to go. You're not creating chaos for your kids or inconsistency. Kids cannot deal with inconsistency.
So, adding to that point, like if one parent is the one responsible for implementing the things, and for example, waking up the kids in the morning,
is your job. Yeah.
Okay.
The bad guy.
Me and my voice and doing something. Tried everything failed except my voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good voice.
And then once he's up, he's showered by kisses. And
Showered by kisses.
Let me guess. Authoritarian, permissive. Yeah.
It's not that
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah.
sure, is that healthy?
Why don't you?
I want my life to stop.
Yeah. Can she stop smothering? The thing is, why don't you give hugs and kisses?
It's very healthy, keep going.
Wake up.
You have to be the one to say, wake up. You guys, it's okay. There has to be structure. And it doesn't need to be both of you saying, wake up simultaneously at the same time. It's okay. It's okay as long as your kids do not feel there's a divided home where dad is always mean and angry and mom is always warm and fuzzy, and it can't be this huge divide. They have to feel warmth and gentleness from their dads as much as they feel from their moms. They have to feel it. So men and women are different, period. You want me to give a whole talk about that? I can. Men and women are very different. But the way in which men and women are different are what every child needs. They need a combination of both. They need the tough, they need that, and they need the gentle, soft. But they need to see it in both. So, mom, sometimes you need to yell, wake up! And then sometimes you need to do kissing. I know, we're probably way out of time, right? Are we? Yeah, okay. Peter, Tina, you were supposed to do this together. Any thoughts?
Right, we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we're all trying to figure it out.
Can I do say some advice that someone
Please.
gave to me? It was, remember when we did the Lamaze class? We're so
You did a Lamaze class?
We did a Lamaze class and
That's
then we did a
embarrassing.
Mom and Me class. She gave me one really good advice. She said, when your kids are little, all you want to do is you hug and you kiss them, right? And it's so easy to communicate, how was your day, sweetheart? And they talk about preschool, whatever. She said, right around junior high, 10, 11, 12 years old, they start saying, don't hug me at school.
Oh.
They start that barrier. She said, when your kid is in high school, they need the love that you gave a preschooler.
Yeah.
But you've already built this barrier. So she's like, now all of a sudden you can't ask their day, it's not natural, they're gonna say fine, whatever. She's like, push through the don't kiss me in school, you kiss them at school. Don't hug me in school, no, you're gonna hug them in school.
Yeah.
And you're gonna continue to ask your annoying child,
Yeah.
how was your day at school at 12 years old?
Yeah.
Because they're not cute, you don't wanna kiss them. They're just like,
Yeah.
And she said, push through, and when they're in high school, they're gonna have that same parent through.
Yeah.
That really, really made a difference for
Yeah.
us.
I like that. It's stability. It's consistency and stability. I like it. I like it.
I just want to say something as an older man, but younger parent. So I started having kids at a later age. I don't want you to be afraid about the outside sin, their friends, or don't be afraid when you're praying. We are serving a Father, a God that is very, very powerful. And He said, be of good cheer, for I've overcome the world. This fear will be transferred to the kids. Don't be afraid. Okay? Just if you are afraid, pray. And leave it at the feet of Christ and move on. Okay? I learned this very hard, the hard way. Because I was always, when something happens, I always run. And then one day I wasn't able to come to help, but I prayed. And I discovered that things didn't require me to be there, because God is there. And then I said, okay, from now on I'm going to pray and leave it there. So I want you to experience this. This is very important, because fear cripples us from let them go and explore.
That's a good point.
That's kind of what I was going to say is I have been learning that fear is not from God.
Oh, it's not from God.
It's from the devil. So we're so scared that we want to shelter our kids and we don't want them to be exposed to like all the things of the world because it's happening sooner and sooner and sooner. And it's like that fear creates an environment where they now will go to their friends to ask questions versus their parents. So be open and honest, I think, with your kids.
Yeah.
Goes a long way
Yeah.
so that they go to you first before
Yeah.
their friends.
Anxiety is contagious. If you're worried about it, you're going to transfer that worry to them. We don't want anxious kids. We really do not want. It's debilitating. So be careful. Like manage your own worries, not just about the world, about anything. Manage your own worries. You're worried that they're going to fail in school. What do you think they feel? Like they're going to worry then that they're failing at school. Like manage your worries. It's a really good point so that we're not transferring it to them. Really good point. I think we're good. Let's go. And glory be to God forever. Amen. Who's going to pray? Anyone going to pray? Annie's going to pray.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, very much. We thank you, Lord, that you are our Father, and we experience so much love, so much acceptance. We know how much you, over the years, you accepted us, helped us grow, helped us change. We look up to you, Lord, in our relationship with our kids. We look up to you in them established in the church and in you, Lord. Please, Lord, remember all our kids, all their friends. Remember all the families of this church. Remember the peace of our homes. Please, Lord, forgive us our sins and help us to learn through the fasting tomorrow, through the intercession of Virgin Mary and Archangel Michael and Saint Mark. Hear us when we pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us our trespasses, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Christ is our Lord, and thine the kingdom, the power, and the